We're going to get started today by actually kicking this off with one of those presentations that we mentioned from an expert in the room that we're very excited to have with us today. I want to introduce you all to Dr. Auburn Seidel, who is one of the co-creators of the Adolescent Girls Agency Survey and the co-founder of Girls Agency Lab Consulting. Auburn is going to take us all through a bit of the history of the Adolescent Girls Agency Survey and the driving force behind this portal that's now available for all of you. So, welcome, Auburn. Really excited to have you here. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Zach. Really excited to be here with all of you. Give me 1 second while I share. Hopefully you all can see my presentation. Great. It's a real privilege to be here today with all of you. I think I noticed as everyone was chiming in at the beginning that we're representing at least four continents that I know of. I'm sure multiple time zones. So good evening and good morning to everybody. Today I'm going to talk about how the Adolescent Girls Agency scale was created, the history of that development, why it's a best-in-class measure for adolescent girls, and touch a bit on the impact before passing to our colleagues from the ICRW. First and foremost, I'm Dr. Auburn Seidel. I am one half of the Girls Agency Lab. My co-founder and co-CEO, Dr. Brenda Ulo, can't be with us today because she's traveling, but she's with us here in spirit. We are a feminist research collective that was created out of the scholarly collaboration between Dr. Ulo and myself, and our friendship that developed over the many years of working on this instrument. Our research is dedicated to the measurement, practice, and power of agency in transforming gendered inequalities in our world. We specialize in creative mixed methods research and participatory approaches, all of which support the rights and needs of adolescents and the communities in which they live and the organizations that support them. We entered into a collaboration in 2017 with AMPLIFY Girls around a key problem, a challenge that I think many of you are familiar with. Those of us who have been practitioners or who are currently practitioners and have been on the ground working with vulnerable adolescent girls or vulnerable adolescents around the world know that we need transformative measures. There are important outcomes that come from the most impactful programs, and those important outcomes are not only difficult to measure, they often seem impossible to quantify. And that really restricts investment in programs that are doing excellent work. It also restricts our learning about how to strengthen and improve some of the programs that are doing the best work. And we know that this challenge often uniquely disadvantages local organizations and community organizations that are close to the ground. So this was the key question that AMPLIFY Girls and Dr. Ulo and myself came together to solve. How do we create a common measure of impact for organizations who are serving girls in diverse contexts, in different countries, in diverse communities, in contexts where girls have different needs and different challenges? This is, I think, the challenge that brought us together. So in 2018, AMPLIFY convened a meeting of the minds of the 17 organizational leaders who represented the network at that time. They came from 12 communities, which you can see here on your screen, in 4 countries. And we asked them a simple but powerful question. What does success look like for girls in your community? And we asked those leaders to go back to their communities and brainstorm an exhaustive list of answers to that question. We compiled those answers and then led a participatory process using a methodology called group concept mapping to collate those answers, give those answers back to organizational leaders, have them sort them into thematic categories, and then we utilized statistical methods called multidimensional scaling and hierarchical cluster analysis to create a map of what are the most important outcomes for adolescent girls, irrespective of the diverse communities in which they come from. On this next screen, you'll see the result of that process, and you'll also see that Girls Agency was unanimously rated by all of the organizations who participated in this process as the #1 most important outcome for girls. For those of you who are curious about that process, there is a white paper on Amplify's website, co-authored by all of us who participated in that process or led that process. Um, uh, and it really does a good job of telling the story of how we came to agency. So once agency was identified as the outcome that we cared most about, the next challenge, of course, is how to create a measure. And that posed a different type of problem. I think we all can understand intuitively that the way that girls exercise their agency is really context specific. So, how a girl takes action in her life in Tanzania is different from how a girl might take action in her life in Norway or the United States or South Sudan. And so, the challenge that we were faced with as a collaborative was how to build a measure that predicts whether or not girls will take action in her context, irrespective of that context. And this is where I'd like to note, I think, a key innovation of the Adolescent Girls Agency survey is that we tried to divide the difference between what is context specific in agency and what can be universally measured. So if we understand that agency is the ability of a girl to make change in her own life, then that's really made up of two things, right? Taking action, which is her agency, and her underlying ability to take action, which we call agentic capacity. While agency is context specific, agentic capacity, we believe and hypothesize and are continuing to test, is likely a universal construct that can be measured much more widely. As I like to share with my students, when you launch into an effort to measure something, you have to define it very well first. Without a good definition, measurement's impossible. And so we began our development of the survey with a definition that I developed and was published in 2019 that tried to synthesize what different researchers and different literatures have said about what is agency and how it operates. And we develop this conceptual framework that agency is two things: a set of positive beliefs about yourself and your abilities, and a set of skills that you need to do the change making. Um, Gal hypothesizes and are continuing to test and revise the hypothesis that positive self-belief is universally important for girls no matter where they are, but that agency skills, the skills you need to do change making, might be more context specific or at least regionally specific. Um, this working definition launched us into the process of development. The very first thing was in late 2018, Gal sent a survey around to Amplify partners and asked them, what skills and self-beliefs do your organizations teach in your programs and that matter for girls in your communities? From that survey, we compiled a list of 3 positive self-beliefs and about 24 skills, which we narrowed via majority to 11. We then led a literature review of pre-existing and validated measures of those skills and beliefs, and then developed measures where pre-existing ones did not exist, and cobbled together a first draft or a draft 0 of the agency survey. I say cobbled together because I think the original version was over 100 questions, and I think we can all agree that is way too long. We then pilot tested this version in Uganda and Tanzania with the help of a few organizations whose names are on the screen, and came together in a workshop in Arusha, Tanzania in April 2019, where as a community, we discussed and workshopped the instrument itself. So Gal facilitated a series of conversations about, do these questions make sense? Do they measure what they intend? Do we need to revise them? Do we need to drop them? And together with an analysis of the pilot data from Uganda and Tanzania, and a second convening in August of 2019, where we revised the conceptual framework of agency as beliefs plus skills, we came to the synthesis of what is more or less the final version of the instrument that you all will get to know very well if you don't know already, um, which came out of our final series of conversations in late 2019. So the new conceptual framework, this is how we currently measure agency via the AGUS. It was published in the Comparative Education Review for those of you who are interested. Um, divide self-beliefs and skills into 4 categories. So partners were quite clear that there are actually 2 types of beliefs that matter for girls' agency and 2 types of skills, those that are internally facing and those that are externally facing. Importantly, environmental beliefs are about a girl's belief in how changeable her environment is. This is related to gendered norms. Does she have the ability to affect change in her environment, or is it too rigidly structured by those gendered norms for her to create that change? Similarly, self-governance skills are internally facing about coordinating abilities into action, things like goal setting and problem solving, while leadership skills are externally facing and about a girl's ability to influence those around her. So you'll see here the full timeline. The first year was the development that I just shared with you and the pre-testing of the instrument. I'd like to take a moment and really thank the 17 organizations and organizational leaders who really gave of their expertise and their lived experience selflessly during that year and were willing to take a courageous journey, not knowing where this tool would land, but believing in its power to affect change in the world, just like we hope all of the young women we work with will. So thanks to all of the founding partners of Amplify Girls. We then needed to ask, now that we had an instrument, does it actually measure agency and can it be used in evaluation? These are 2 scientific questions that in order for a measure to be considered valid have to be answered. So the first question, does it measure agency? We answered by collecting cross-sectional data from over 2,000 girls and 16 organizations, and again was published in the Comparative Education Review. If you all can't find it, please email me and I'm happy to share this paper with you for those who are interested. And the answer happily is yes. The instrument does measure agency in the population in which we collected data from. The second question, can it be used in evaluation? Does it measure change in agency over time? Can we use it as a pre-post test? To answer this question, we collected longitudinal data or pre-post data from 1,200 girls from 12 organizations, and the results of that work are published on Amplify's website in a report called Tracking Girls Agency. And again, we found really great evidence that the tool can be used as a pre-post measure, that it tracks agency over time and is sensitive to that change. Which brings us to the million-dollar question. Um, what does it mean to be industry standard measure? And the answer is, does it work in a wide population? And so in order to establish the AGUS as industry standard, we wanted to collect a geographically heterogeneous and diverse sample of data to really understand if the measure performs well across contexts. So to undertake this initiative, we recruited additional organizations to the cause. We added Malawi as a country of interest, and the organizations that you see here on the screen joined 12 founding Amplify partners and undertook a massive data collection operation that happened primarily over the course of 2023. We collected data from over 8,000 adolescent girls in 5 countries. And this is really unheard of for organizations that don't have multiple country offices and aren't operating with massive infrastructure. And it was really thanks to the labor and the blood, sweat, and tears of each of these organizations who helped us work through operational challenges on the ground in real time and were committed to getting to the end result. We also engaged over this process 8 technical experts from 5 countries who reviewed the instrument and offered their technical expertise. And we synthesized all of that data to answer the question, is the AGUS a valid measure for girls throughout Eastern Africa? And again, the answer happily is yes. For those of you who are interested in the psychometric details of answering that question, we have a paper forthcoming in the Humanities and Social Science Communications Journal, and we'll be sure to share with all of you once it's released. Last but not least, we care not just if the measure works for science, we care first and foremost if it works for organizations. This is a tool that was developed by and for practitioners. And so we wanted to make sure to offer very good guidance and collate the learning of organizations in implementing this instrument in diverse contexts. So in May of 2024, Amplify and GAL hosted a symposium that brought together 70 practitioners from those 5 countries, 10 girl experts, a panel of technical experts, and we used the feedback that was given to us to build a very detailed user manual. Much of that guidance is now institutionalized in the portal um, in web videos and other types of technical documents so that you all in wanting to implement this instrument have every resource at your disposal and all of the learning of all of those processes to build on. Final structure of the survey, 33 items, down from over 100. We're very proud of that. I think in summary, the AGUS yields 5 scores, so it gives very good information for organizations, not just agency overall, but how are organizations doing in each of the 4 subdomains. The scoring is complex, which is why we've housed it in the portal, which was a brilliant idea that came out of um, our partnership around the group concept mapping software, which also automates analysis in a way that makes it very user-friendly for organizations and researchers. It's free and accessible. It has been translated and validated in 4 languages. We have good disability accommodation recommendations for organizations working with girls with disabilities, and we'd like to do more on that. But most importantly, the AGUS solves the problem of complex measurement. It's comprehensive, it's first of its kind, it's locally developed, and it's best in class, meaning that it's more rigorously tested and parsimonious or short than comparable measures. Last but not least, I just wanted to mention in 2 minutes the potential for future impact of this portal and the measure. There is incredible capacity now that we are building a database to generate a global database on girls agency. This is work that we very much look forward to collaborating with Amplify Girls on. We hope to investigate best practices in building girls agency, what programs actually help build girls agency. This goes hand in hand with work that GAL is doing to understand the predictive power of agency as a measure for other types of life outcomes. We'd like to develop global reference values of agency for girls that can be used in experimental or quasi-experimental research across different sectors. And last but not least, we want to build a global measure, adapt the adolescent girls agency skill for new contexts and populations. Of particular interest to us are boys and girls in the US, girls with disabilities in whatever country, and Indian girls. If your organization is interested in collaborating with us on any of that, please reach out. And I'm excited to announce, last but not least, that actually an India adaptation of the Adolescent Girls Agency skill is forthcoming. With generous support from Echidna Giving, we are launching a process in the next month to lead an adaptation and validation of the AGUS for use in India with Indian girls. And we have a wonderful group of Indian organizational collaborators already working with us on that. I think I saw a few of them join this call. And so please stay tuned for any of you who are interested in what is happening in South Asia or other parts of the world with regards to the AGUS. I think it really speaks to the power and potential of building community-driven measures, measures that are locally responsive, measures that are built by and for practitioners, for practice audiences, that we have so much momentum for the AGUS. And I believe that momentum is only going to grow. So thank you very much to Amplify Girls, the founding partners, everyone for being here today. It's an exciting effort to be a part of, and we look forward to the future.
Thank you so much, Auburn. Really appreciate that, and thank you so much for being here, and obviously for all of the work that you've done to this point with Brenda and with all of these outstanding community-driven organizations and partners. It really I think it is so unique and so singular to have had this arc in the way that it's panned out. It's something that Amplify Girls is honored to be a part of. It's something I think that's wonderful for the sector. It's the whole reason why we're able to debut this tool today. So thank you so much for everything you've done, and thank you for walking us through that journey here. All right. Well, we're going to bring this over now to another wonderful expert we have with us. We're delighted today to be joined by Jess Ogden with the International Center for Research on Women. This is ICRW. We are really excited to be able to have multiple different perspectives for you all today in terms of what's working, why it's working, and what could be done now. Jess is going to help us look a little bit about what this really means for the sector. What is having the Adolescent Girls Agency survey and the Adolescent Girls Agency portal available do for organizations that are trying to work closely with girls and young women worldwide. So I'm going to pass this over to Jess. Thank you so much for being with us, Jess. And we're really excited to hear from you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to um, be here to share this perspective with you from the ICRW point of view. So it's a great honor for us to be in the room with you all today. And as Zach shared, I'm going to be speaking just a little bit about the implications of the evidence that this tool and the portal sort of help us generate, and what contributions it makes to the sector. I'm sure you are all beginning to already think about that in your own perspective. I won't talk a lot about the background. We're all here because we know and care about adolescent girls' lives and the shortcomings that we've sort of struggled with over the years in terms of really making an important, meaningful difference in their lives. And I think the promise of this tool is that it really hopefully will help us to uncover what's actually working, to help practitioners and others who are advocating on behalf of adolescent girls and adolescent girls themselves to really understand what actually works and what doesn't. And it's really grounded in community experience and girls' own voices, their own words, and their own recorded experience on the ground. So it's a really critical contribution. And it allows us to spotlight promising practices, to develop evidence-based characteristics of effective programs, and to make the case for scaling what works when and if that's appropriate, through policy advocacy, funding, and partnerships. And before I go on, just checking, Zach, are you seeing the right screen?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Things are looking good. Thank you, Jess.
Awesome. Okay. So an important feature of this tool that I think is really critical, making a critical contribution, and has the potential to really move the needle for girls, is that it centers their voices. It centers community perspectives really at the source. And as you all know, there's increasing, and appropriately so, pressure to center girls' voices in advocacy spaces. But we've struggled for so many years to know how to do that in a meaningful way without tokenizing the girls or somehow burdening them with being responsible for fixing the systems that are oppressing them. So potentially this tool offers a solution to that problem. It gives us a way to capture girls' experiences in a respectful way, and really treating girls as experts in their own lives and the architects of their own stories. And their insights then become the foundation for accountability and advocacy as they should be. So in terms of what this means for the sector, I think the tool and the potential of the tool points to a potentially very powerful shift, right? So girl-focused organizations can now contribute to and benefit from a shared ecosystem in the context of the portal, to really see what partners are doing, to aggregate the data across partners, across people working on this issue in different kinds of sectors and different geographies, to really feel like they're contributing to something bigger than the work that they're doing on the ground, as big as that is. Funders and policymakers can base their decisions on real-time insights from those most affected. and advocates can speak with more precision and legitimacy when pressing for change. And so it's important to know that the portal and the availability of this tool is not really just about more data. More data is good, right? As long as it's good data, but it's really about better kind of data, right? It's localized, it's girl-led, and it's equity-driven. It's an incredible contribution. So just to sum up, the evidence generated by AGUS can be used in multiple powerful and strategic ways across the sector, right? The development sector writ large, by community-based and community-driven organizations, by advocates, and by policy ecosystems. So huge potential here. And I created a little summary use case grid, which maps out across user groups, and I'm sure there are many more that could be included here, and the use of, and how these groups can use the data potentially, and then the potential result from that work. And then as an annex to this presentation, which I'm happy to share with all of you, I kind of unpack these a little bit more, most of these a little bit more, so give a little bit more depth into what the use case is for the tool for these different groups. So I'm not going to present that now, but it will be available to you. But you get a sense here that community-driven organizations and NGOs, advocates, donors and funders, policymakers, researchers, and girl leaders themselves can all use this tool. And I'm so excited to kind of dig into the portal a little bit more, so we get a sense of what that actually looks like in practice. So Amplify Girls has asked me to address a few specific questions in these remarks, and I will do so as best I can. And the first of these is how this tool is unique in the landscape of girl-focused impact measurement. And I think Aubryn's presentation really gave you a flavor of that, a good flavor of that in terms of the process of how it came about, which in and of itself was unique in its participatory and grounded nature. But, you know, she said it once, I'll say it again, it really is the first of its kind tool that we have available for trying to get at measuring agency. Those of you that work in this field know that human characteristics like agency are very slippery and very, very hard to capture in any kind of a scientific tool. But the way that they went about this process and the psychometric aspects of this tool really get at it in a very thoughtful and unique way. It's been developed, as Aubryn said, and validated in the Global South, which of itself is unique. You saw that breadth of partners that were available of participating in this process. It's based on this robust sample size, as Aubryn shared, in multiple African countries. It's available, as she said, in multiple African languages. So there's a lot about this tool that is unique. And I think what's very important to know, and as all of you know, the bulk of work happening right now that's really trying to support and advance thriving for girls and women around the world is really focusing on this issue of agency. We've sort of got to that nugget of what we really need to be concentrating on to move the needle forward for women and girls. And this tool is going to really help us do that in a meaningful way. So it is a unique, incredible contribution. And I think another piece of this, which is important to note, is that it shifts the paradigm of power in measurement, which is something that those of us who are involved in the research world think a lot about as we're thinking about how we shift to a less extractive research framework. And, many tools that have been developed to try and measure adolescent girls' lives and change in their lives really are measuring what we think matter for girls. We as adults and often outsider adults think matters for girls. And this survey really centers what girls say is changing about their own lives, their decision-making, their freedom of movement, their voice, and their sense of purpose. And then the portal, as we'll see, then translates this decentralized input into a shared sector-wide data set that aggregates diverse realities into common patterns. So we can not only see how we're changing and affecting the girls that we're working with directly, but what's happening in our context more broadly, what's happening in our region more broadly, what's happening in our world more broadly. So it's an important shift there. And the second question was, why would a body of evidence regarding girls' program efficacy, regarding program efficacy in relation to girls' agency scores be valuable to both large and, beg your pardon, small organizations? So how is this tool useful for both community-driven, community-based, girl-led organizations, as well as sort of larger regional, global organizations, INGOs, and so forth? One key aspect of it is that it offers shared value. It's designed to be tailored, as I understand it. So if you're a very small community-driven organization or a very large INGO, you can use this tool in a way that is supportive for the work that you're doing. So whatever scale you're working at, you can help frame your program and assess your impact with this tool. CDOs can gain legitimacy, learn from feedback, connect to global evidence. Larger organizations can compare programs, identify high impact models, and leverage data for advocacy. And then working together, we now have a tool through the portal to co-create robust, inclusive narratives around what works for girls' agency. And I think that's an incredible value. And the third bucket of third question I was asked to think about was, what are the implications specifically for sexual reproductive health and rights of adolescent girls? And this is, just sort of narrowing the focus sort of girls' agency writ large to really sort of how can we use this tool in relation to sort of sector-specific or issue-specific work that we want to be doing to support the well-being of girls in specific sorts of ways. It's a great question. And I think it just sort of, you can shift the whole thing from the writ large to the specific. So it centers girls' voices in SRHR outcomes, which those of you that work in SRHR know is a very challenging thing for a variety of reasons. But it really adds in something that we often miss out, which is not just agency, but the autonomy of girls, and sort of adds in the ability to look at that within SRHR impact measurement that we're doing. It helps to highlight the structural barriers that exist as we sort of understand agency in relation to SRHR. What are the structural barriers to informed and empowered decision-making by girls? It connects service access to power dynamics and lived experience of girls. And it supports advocacy that centers girls' voices and accountability for improving their lives. So specifically in relation to identifying structural barriers, which is something ICRW cares a lot about, this portal data can help highlight patterns in agency scores that correlate with weak SRHR outcomes. So for example, you can look at where girls are scoring low in mobility or decision-making. You can then correlate, they might have limited access to contraception or to health services of various kinds. And so we can build that in to your program design and your framing. And then again, on the advocacy side, it really helps advocates focus in on specific structural drivers in their advocacy work. So it could be that gender norms or family pressure, or again, mobility constraints that we know affect a lot of adolescent girls. They sort of allows them to really hone in on those and to understand some nuance around that so that they can hone in and sharpen their advocacy messaging. And I think the other key piece of this, which from my perspective is really important, is validating impact beyond behavior change alone. So, some SRHR programs can sort of look at numbers of girls accessing the service, using the commodities, whatever it is. But in theory, this tool should be able to help to not just change knowledge and behavior, but to actually track changes in power or autonomy. And the tool adds this layer by allowing practitioners to connect service access with real shifts in agency, and to distinguish between programs that simply educate, not that that's simple or trivial, but that only educate, and those that are actually seeking to empower. So not just to kind of inform and create information, but to give girls the ability to use that information to act for their own health. And finally, this sort of piece around advocacy and accountability, so important in SRHR and all the other issues that we work on. But I think as and when girl-reported agency becomes a recognized indicator in SRHR space is it reshapes how success of programs gets defined. And it allows us to be more nuanced and more in-depth and actually probably more accurate in understanding how our programs are performing. And again, the portal allows this kind of aggregation across different contexts to hold duty pairs accountable, not only for the services that they're providing, but for creating the conditions that enable girls to act with autonomy in their decisions. So it's really more than just a survey. In theory, it's a shift in how we produce knowledge, how we make decisions and fight for girls' rights. We know that when we listen to girls, elevate their insights, and act on the evidence, we have the potential to build more effective, more inclusive, and more accountable systems of change. And that is all I've got. As I mentioned earlier, I expand on some of these use cases in the slides, which I will be happy to share with you. But that's all I've got for now. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Jess, thank you so much. That's outstanding. So glad to have you here. ICRW has been such an outstanding partner for GAL and for Amplify Girls, really throughout the development of the AGOS and now through its launch as well. We're very grateful to have the ICRW team involved in this. And for anyone who's interested, actually, we'll send out, excuse me, we'll send out follow-up materials, including Jess's slides and things like that. But a few things to come as the portal goes live. We're actually working right now on a joint blog with some of the ICRW staff that's going to focus on why the AGOS is not just an opportunity for organizations to evaluate, but why this is also an avenue for more inclusive bodies of evidence, and why this is a view into what localized efforts are working for girls, and why we, as people who are interested in advocating for girls and researching what works for girls, have a mandate to include those voices in that process. So we're really excited to get that out with all of you very soon. Thank you, Jess. We're going to pivot now to looking at the portal itself. Kind of the moment has arrived, looking at the Adolescent Girls Agency portal and what that means for all of you. We've had a number of questions in the chat around how to actually access this resource, how to leverage this resource. That's where we're going now. It is time to finally look at getting you access to this tool. So we're going to start actually by answering the question, what is the portal? When we say the Adolescent Girls Agency portal, what is that? Why are we launching this website today? Why are we talking about this online resource? And I'm going to invite someone from the Amplify Girls team to discuss this with all of you. I want to invite Asimwe Swed, who's a Director of Research and Evidence for Amplify Girls. Asimwe, please welcome and walk us through a little bit of the key features of the portal and why this site exists.
Thank you so much, Zach, and thank you, Dr. O'Brien and Jess, for laying a foundation on what is AGOS, which I think it paves the way for me as I speak on the portal. So to start with, I think as someone who has interacted with several of our partners within Amplify who have used the AGOS before, I'm extremely excited today as we officially transition to the portal where the AGOS is going to be housed. And at Amplify, we are really excited because for major two reasons. The first one is the fact that the portal is going to increase the AGOS administration efficiency for those who have used it before in terms of accessing it through the portal and for all of the procedures that are needed through the portal. But of course, secondly, the fact that it's going to, the access is going to be expanded outside our network for more organizations who can utilize it. That's something amazing, and we are so excited. So let's talk about the key features of the portal. First, with the portal, the user can access the AGOS in 5 major languages. Obin had spoken about this prior, but basically the language that will be available through the portal, that's English language, Chichewa language, Kiswahili language that is spoken in Tanzania, Kiswahili language that is spoken in Kenya, and Kinyarwanda. And these 5 language versions are more designed to allow girls to be able to respond to the questions in the language that they best understand. And regardless of any choice that the user can use to implement in the field, the results will always be communicated or delivered in English. So the second feature of the portal, with the use of the portal, it provides the users secure storage for the Argus data, which means the responses that you're going to enter into the data, including the results that will be automated, generated from the portal, are all going to be placed in the portal. So that should enable the user to track the progress over time, whether it's specifically in one group of evaluated or across multiple groups that should be evaluated. And of course, it will enable the user to be able to manage the data in a consistent while respecting girls' privacy and data collection. And one note to make in regard to the portal having a feature where you can store the data, the agent's data. No other organization can see another organization data, which means an authorized person and a certain organization who have access to the portal will have access to review their data specifically without allowing it other public or other organization to review it. Another feature of the portal, which we are extremely excited about, is the fact that it automates, the feature on the automated scoring and analysis. So once the responses are being entered into the portal, automatically the portal will score each response and eventually analyze them. And that will result for the user to get instantly report that you can download, which we think the fact that you don't have to wait for so long, soon after the data entry, you immediately get your results. That's something we are extremely excited, and we think it's going to be really efficient for those who will be using the portal. Fourth, the portal supports users at every stage. That means before, during, and after. You will come across some orientation videos that speaks of what the portal is, but also explaining key concepts of what is agents, but at the same time, the key concepts on the tool itself, of which all of these tools, orientation videos, and some of the documents are meant to make the portal more user-friendly. And even during the data collection, you come across documents that can give you practical recommendations, just like what Robin had said before with the user manual, like what are the practical recommendations that you can implement during the data collection and result utilization, and specifically, even when you're communicating your data or results externally. And finally, which I think just has spoken very well on this, the portal is designed to grow with us. So the more user use the Argus, the more user we have, the more aggregated data we have, and that should be an opportunity for us to start observing some patterns that we look forward to open a potential areas for the further learning. So it doesn't matter whether you're CDO, funders, and researchers, we are looking for the platform to provide us a platform where we can strengthen the evidence that we have already started learning, but the forthcoming learning that will be learning out of the portal. So in a nutshell, those are the features that we are truly excited that we hope that is going to shift the game in regard to Argus utilization. And I will stop here and hand over back to Zach, who is going to give us a photo tour to see what has been mentioned in a reel. Thank you, Zach.
Thank you so much, Asimwe. I really, really appreciate that overview of what to expect from the portal. And I'm delighted to move us toward officially debuting the portal for all of you. So This is our official site. You can go now if you'd like to girlsagencyportal.org, although I'm going to take all of us there myself in just a moment. Girlsagencyportal.org is the official URL for the online portal that houses the AGOS and all of the features that Asimwe just discussed. Today, we're going to give you an introduction to that website, and I'm going to show you what the user experience from an organization's perspective looks like. So, what you can expect when you visit the site, log in, start to use the resource. So that all of you, hopefully, as you hopefully find this as a useful tool for yourself and your work, will know what to expect and can navigate it a little more easily as you start to explore this resource. So I'm going to move us over now to the actual site itself as we get this tutorial going in full. I'm very, very excited. This is, you are among some of the first people to see this at all. We're very excited to be at this moment. Like we've talked about many times, it is several years in the making. So here we are. Welcome to girlsagencyportal.org. This is live now, as I mentioned, so you can go to girlsagencyportal.org and this is what you'll see. You'll be able to access this site starting today. This is now publicly available. And I'm going to walk you through, as I said, what to expect as a user. But first and foremost, we'll start with a little bit of an overview that you'll find when you arrive on the portal. What is this? How does it work? And we'll give you a short little 90-second overview that you can also view again and again if you have questions about the portal or want to share this with others or possibly explain to your teams, your partners, your funders, what is the portal and why are you using it? Here's a resource available on the homepage.
The Adolescent Girls Agency Portal is an open website by Amplify Girls and Girls Agency Lab Consulting. This portal is available to girl-serving organizations worldwide and serves as the main way for practitioners and advocates to access the groundbreaking Adolescent Girls Agency Survey. The Adolescent Girls Agency Survey was developed collaboratively by Drs. Auburn Seidel and Brenda Owulu alongside Amplify Girls and its network partners. It is a survey that measures the level of agentic capacity in adolescent girls. The Adolescent Girls Agency Survey is housed on this portal and is designed as an evaluation measure that can show the impact a program has on the development of girls' agentic capacity. On this portal, users can create a profile for their organization, access online and downloadable versions of the Adolescent Girls Agency Survey, upload any survey data collected, and have it automatically analyzed. The portal also provides resources and guidance on how to leverage or analyze results for programmatic improvements, as well as stronger grant writing, advocacy, fundraising tactics, and media content. The portal also provides a way for many organizations to pull their Adolescent Girls Agency Survey data together. Results from the Adolescent Girls Agency Survey are anonymously stored in the portal's online database. Over time, these anonymous results will begin to show trends in girls' agency building programs. With enough analysis and time, we can begin to identify characteristics of effective agency building programs and share these insights with all of you.
Wonderful. So that's the overview of what to expect from the portal in a succinct way that you can share with others. Other things you'll see on the homepage, quick little introduction to kind of how this process works, as well as a few resources if you have questions before you get started. What is the survey? What is agency? What is the portal? Lots of options for you to go through as well as FAQs. And you'll see down here, we have a few testimonies and endorsements from organizations that are already using the portal. For those of you who would like to be a part of this, for those of you who start to use this, or those of you who have supported the creation of the survey and the portal, we're happy to include you here. If you're interested in being a part of the endorsements or having your organization featured, you're welcome to reach out. But the most important thing I want to get into on this page is how we get you access to all of the resources. So you'll notice there are a number of prompts on the homepage that say, get started, try it today, get started. all of those are prompting you over here. They're prompting you to sign up. So you have to request an account to use the Girls Agency portal, and that serves two purposes. One is that it helps us understand who's trying to use the portal, what kind of organizations want access to this, and how can we better support them. And it helps us provide a layer of security in case there are any bots or any unwanted users that are trying to join the portal. We can use this as a filter. So the first thing that all of you will do is create an account. Go and request access to the portal by answering a few questions. Now, these questions are pretty simple. They largely ask what kind of work you're doing, who the target group is, and a little bit of a question about what type of programming you're offering. The reason why we ask these questions is because we want to go back to that point we've made a few times now about the value of aggregate data, the value of having this database full of users who are giving us insights into what's working on Girls Agency. We want to be able to connect the scores that we're seeing in this anonymous database to different program characteristics. And the easiest way to do that is to know what are the characteristics of your programs. So we'll start there at the very front. All you have to do is fill out these short questions and click Request Access. Once you click Request Access, you'll be able to hear from our team within about 3 to 5 days. We'll take some time to review your requests, especially in the early days. We ask that you give us some patience. We expect the highest number of requests that the portal will ever have to come in the first week or so. So give us about 5 days or so to review your request, and then we will grant access by sending you via email a link to create your own account and actually get logged in and started. So when we say that the Girls Agency portal is launched today, what that means is you can now go to this site and request that access, and you will be in the queue to be approved. We obviously already have access, so let's go ahead and log in and show you what to expect once you have been given access to the site. We'll log in with our testing account here. Now, when you land, you'll see this dashboard. When you log in, this dashboard will be the first thing you see, and this participant group section will be blank. So don't worry about that right now. You don't have any participant groups yet. We have some because we've been testing, obviously, but this section will be blank. And the first thing that you'll be prompted to do is to look up here under this Get Started section. Before you use the AGOS, it talks about you must closely read and review the AGOS Startup Guide. So the startup guide is available to all of you, and it is obviously a few short steps showing you what you need to do before you start using the survey itself. You'll get a short 2-minute tutorial explaining the video, and you get another tutorial at the bottom explaining the portal. But the biggest piece is this section in the middle that should visually render once we make a few more revisions to the site. But this will open up the AGOS user manual. Auburn referenced this earlier in our presentation today, but it will look like this, and you'll be able to access a full-blown guide of how to use the survey and how that is connected to the portal itself. So as you come through this guide and read through the details of how to administer it, you'll get a better feeling for what to do literally to download the survey and use it. Once you've understood this user manual, then you are ready to continue using the portal. So we'll go back to the main portal and show you next steps here. So once you've read through this startup guide and you've looked at the user manual, you'll be able to go back to begin survey administration. The first thing you do when you're going to create survey administration is to create a new group. So the idea is that you've chosen a group of girls that you're going to give the AGOS to. It is a pre-post evaluation measure, of course, so you want to be giving it just before the start of a program. And you want to be able to identify that program and identify the girls that are a part of it. Click New Group and describe the group that you're trying to work with. Let's say, for instance, that we'll call it Program 1 for now. So this is the Program 1 group for July 2025. There you go. It'll ask you a few questions, like how many rounds will you have, including whether you're doing it just before the program and just after the program, or whether you'll have 3 rounds. with a beginning, middle, and end. The portal will also help you give you information to decide whether you want 2 rounds or 3 rounds and why. For instance, you can see here programs lasting a year or longer. You may want to consider a midpoint survey, although the user manual will give you more information about how to choose whether or not to do that and why that matters. A few more questions about your programs, and then after that, you can click Create. And when you do click Create, you'll see that your program group will appear on your dashboard. Now, again, this one looks a little crowded because we've been using it for a while with testing, but yours will just show this one line around Program 1, July 2025 that we just created. We can see what this looks like here. If we want to take a quick look at the program group, it's empty because we haven't done anything with it yet. But if we want to do something with it, the first step will be to print a copy of the survey. So we want to actually administer the survey to the girls. First, you'll choose your language version, excuse me. Go to print, and you'll see a copy of the Adolescent Girls Agency Survey. This survey will be easily printable and accessible for all of you. You'll print as many copies as you need, administer and collect those results according to the procedures that are in the user manual. Hopefully you're all still with me. Once you have all those results, the next thing you can do is go back to the program that you created, back to the girls group you created, and start entering responses. And you'll see a digital version of the survey. It's exactly the same as the paper version. And what you'll do is essentially take the paper that you've been given from the girls who've used the survey and just replicate their responses here, one at a time, filling out their answers, making sure that you're tracking what they've said and that you're representing their responses fairly. And as you go through, you'll go all the way down and click Save Response. Once you click Save Response, the response will show up here on the right side, so you know where you are in the entry process. How many surveys have you entered? How far along are you in getting all of your data into the portal? And that'll help you track your progress. Now, at any time, you can pause this process and come back to it. So let's say you finished a survey and then you need to continue on to something else and finish later. That's fine. You can come back and continue entering responses. And you can see down at the bottom where it says missing responses 28. That's because when I created this group of girls, one of the questions was how many girls are going to be taking the survey. And it'll prompt me to go until I finish that cohort. It also won't let me submit this document without all of the responses being completed, except for the fact that let me rephrase, excuse me. It is okay if girls that are taking the survey do not complete every question, but we do not want you to submit the survey information accidentally with blank spaces. So if you try to submit a blank form, the portal will stop you and say, are you sure that the girls whose survey you're entering is actually missing responses, or was that a mistake? And then it'll allow you to correct that mistake. We'll leave this example. Let's pretend that we've gone ahead and we've entered all the information we need for a program group. We've given the survey out to girls before the start of the program. We've finished our baseline administration. And so now we want to look at what the portal will look like. Earlier you saw if we click on this group, it brings us to the insights page, and there are no insights because we haven't done anything. So let's look at a group that does have insights because we have done something. So this is a group, it's another test group, where we've just entered a couple of surveys of data, but we haven't done an end line yet. We've just done the information at the beginning. This is what you can expect. You'll see a breakdown of the initial scores for every both the overall agency score and the subdomains of agency that Auburn walked us through, those 4 pieces of skills and beliefs. Each one has its own tab, and you'll see that there's some base information here around this being a good start. Here's more information about this result. If you'd like to understand what it is you're seeing, you can get passed over to the resource tab. It'll give you more context. And it'll give you more information about how to track your impact over time. So as you add more survey administrations, you'll start to see change and progress on these charts on the right. Now, let's say, for instance, you just started a program, you want to do the evaluation at the beginning and the end, and you've done the first round. Well, the AGOS is a pre-post evaluation measure, which means that you're not really going to see valuable scores or really useful insights until you've done at least 2 administrations. After all, we're trying to measure change in a girl's agentic capacity, which means you have to see it at least 2 different points. But we all know that sometimes there are partners or funders that want to see what we're doing when it comes to evaluation. And so they may request, show me your baseline administration, show me your data, show me what you've done so far, and you'll want something to give them, even though you haven't done your 2 points yet. At any point, you can go up here to this button and click Print Insights, and it'll generate a little report for you, a baseline report that kind of explains what is this, what can we learn from these values, and a special note about the fact that the baseline values may change when another round is entered. It also gives you a little bit of an overview of what it is you're doing. So if you wanted to describe that to someone or show that to someone else, you could. Now, let's get to the real exciting part. This is once we've gotten through the baseline and you've actually gotten to show an end line, let's look at what a program looks like that has done both an administration before the start and administration after the end. So this is a different group. Now we've got 2 points, the beginning and the end. And you can see, same thing, all of the different tabs have their individual scores and a percentage change that's provided. You can also see the change on the right side on the graph here. And you'll see that the text underneath these tabs has changed a bit. It's giving more context of what does this mean for my program? How do I share this externally? What should I be saying when people ask me, what do my agency scores mean? All of that is available to you in these tabs. And just like before, if you wanted to print insights, you can, but the insights look very different now because now you have multiple points. So you get a full breakdown of your scores, what it could mean for you, why it's useful, and ways to report it externally. So all of that is available for you to share internally with your staff or to take pieces of and possibly use for grant purposes, for fundraising pitches, for program learning, for team presentations. All of this is available for you to play with once you've done at least 2 administrations. Now you're going to see some information in here that might raise questions. Like for instance, what is a non-statistically significant change? Or what is a statistically significant change? What does it mean if it's positive but non-statistically significant? What if it's statistically insignificant? What if it's negative? All of those questions you might have are answered on the portal. All you need to do is go to this resource that says, what does this number mean? And you'll come to a guide that walks you through your AGOS scores. What does it mean? Why are you seeing this? And how do you interpret these results? Of course, if you have any questions, there will be folks available to help you. But this is an overview that should be able to give you enough information to proceed. Now, speaking of the resources page, as you continue to explore the AGOS and the portal, you may have additional questions that come up. There are lots of pieces of information here that are worth understanding. So I highly encourage you to look at these results, or these resources rather. Another thing that you should know about the resources page, though, is as people use the survey and as we get more questions from users, concerns from users, and as we learn more about the survey itself and the results that we're seeing, we will post learning resources here, observations, things that we've started to come to understand about the nature of agency and programs. And so there will be also written reports and blogs and thought pieces here that you can engage with as practitioners. So I'll give you one example of a learning resource you can access right now. This is that same page, that guide that I showed you earlier. But let's say you wanted to use it as a video. You can. There's a section here with a video tutorial of how to understand results. Let's watch that together as an example of a way we might learn from the resources page.
The Adolescent Girls Agency Survey is a tool that can be used to evaluate the impact of a girl-focused program at a group level. Results from using the Adolescent Girls Agency Survey can help us see how agency is changing for an entire cohort of girls who are all participating in the same program at the same time. When an organization receives Adolescent Girls Agency Survey results, it receives scores for overall agentic capacity, as well as scores for each of the 4 domains that make up agentic capacity: self-beliefs, environmental beliefs, self-governance skills, and leadership skills. These results help organizations know how 4 areas of skills and beliefs are changing in relationship to the overall agentic capacity of girls in a program. The Adolescent Girls Agency Survey results are presented as an aggregate measure or combined overall score of the change in agentic capacity in a group of girls from baseline, or the start of a program, to endline, or the end of a program. To interpret the changes that the Adolescent Girls Agency Survey has detected between the baseline scores and the endline scores, we look at what is statistically significant. Statistically significant changes indicate that the observed differences we see in a group of girls from start to finish are not likely due to random chance. Instead, it's possible that the difference we see from the baseline to endline is being caused by something. In this context, that something that is causing the change might be your program. If the endline results you receive using the Adolescent Girls Agency Survey are not statistically significant, it does not mean that your program isn't effective. It simply means there isn't enough evidence in the data to prove that changes in the group of girls from start to finish weren't due to random chance. In order to see statistically significant changes, you may need to survey a larger group of girls or make adjustments to the program that might lead to a bigger noticeable change. Just because a result is not statistically significant does not mean it isn't still useful information. It is important to note that if you see statistically significant changes in your results, this is a strong suggestion that your program might have contributed to those changes, but it is not a guarantee. You'll need to investigate further if you want to build proof that your program made the change possible. One option is to measure outcomes other than agency at the same time that you use the Adolescent Girls Agency Survey. If you see significant results on both outcomes, then your argument that your program is making a difference will strengthen.
So that's just one example of a resource that's available to you to better understand the survey and the results that you may see. We'll show one final thing here. We've shown you now what it looks like to administer a baseline, an endline, to see results from baseline to endline and to understand those results, as well as collecting recommendations and analysis on the results that you're seeing. Let's say you've done all of that, some time has gone by, and you're ready to look at a new cohort. At any time, all you have to do is come back to your dashboard and start a new group. That new group will be added to your list, and you'll repeat the process exactly as it was before. So hopefully that's clear for all of you. Hopefully this is relatively straightforward. It is obviously a new resource, a new tool, so there will be some bumps along the way, but we're very proud of what we've been able to create here. The team has done a wonderful job getting this together and trying to make it as streamlined as possible. I want to give special shout out to the organizations that helped pilot this portal. We had a number of community organizations throughout Africa, both Amplify Girls partners and non-partners, who participated in testing the portal, giving us feedback on its user friendliness and its clarity. And we also, of course, want to thank the funding partners and the research partners and the thought partners, some of whom are listed here, that made this all possible. This is a very exciting moment for us. We're getting close now to officially handing this over to all of you and opening up for questions. But before we do that, I want to pause for just a moment, and I want to invite one final speaker. This is Lucy Manayo, our co-CEO for Amplify Girls. Lucy is going to be speaking to us just a moment about the implications for the AGOS going forward. So what happens next? What's on the horizon, and what can we expect as a community of practice all together? So Lucy, please welcome, show us the future, and then we'll get into the group conversation.
Okay, thank you, Zach. I think it's difficult to show anyone the future without delving into magic and the like. So hi everyone. I'll just start by echoing previous speakers in appreciating all of you for joining this launch. So as others who spoke before me have said, today marks a pivotal moment in our journey to amplify the voices and agency of adolescent girls, as well as the impact of community-driven organizations in Africa. We see the launch of this portal not just as a technological advancement, but an invitation to transform the way we build agency, the way we measure impact, and the way that we advocate for systems change. As others have mentioned, this portal has, over the last couple of years, been an exclusive, or AGAS itself has been an exclusive resource for our network partners, and they've pioneered its use, enabling them to derive insights that have strengthened their programs and increased investments in their work. At this point, as mentioned, we are opening it up to the broader community. And as previous speakers have said, this expansion is an opportunity to scale the impact of this tool in a couple of ways. So first, a larger data set means that we'll get deeper insights. We'll be able to get deeper insights into promising practices that will not only help CDOs implement more effective agency building programs, but also empower them to engage key stakeholders, including duty bearers. And if we just pause there and imagine a couple of scenarios, for instance, the possibility of using AGAS data to influence school curriculums, or to improve SRHR access in health systems, or to create pathways for employment for girls. These possibilities are immense, and the portal is the tool to unlock them. And just to share, to give a glimpse into what we are currently doing, we are investigating barriers to the ability of girls to exercise their agency as we set ourselves up to begin our work on systems change, which is something that partners noted as a significant environmental intervention that will support girls to realize agency and autonomy in SRHR. But our ambition doesn't stop there. With the data generated through the portal, our aim is to establish AGAS as an industry standard for agency building programs. We know that this is a long-term endeavor requiring rigorous research and collaboration. If you are listening to Obreen and Zach, we've taken years to get to where we are. So we recognize that this will take a lot of research and collaboration, but today's launch is the first step in making that vision a reality. So we invite your collaboration as we bring this vision to fruition. So as I come to the close of what I was meant to articulate, I want to turn my attention to the many organizations that over the years have expressed interest in joining the Amplify Girls Network. Our team is inundated with these requests daily, and we are grateful for the incredible interest in our organization. Now, while we are currently reviewing our partner intake strategy, we are excited to offer a pathway forward. When you sign up and begin using the portal, you as an organization will become part of the Amplify Girls agency building movement, a movement that is consistently measuring the effectiveness of programs and contributing to a collective effort to improve the lives of girls and young women across Africa. So we hope you'll sign up. And so to everyone here today, this is really your moment to act. If you're committed to establishing the impact of your programs, please sign up on the portal. And Zach shared, the procedure for signing up. Please share the portal widely with your networks and start your journey towards becoming part of this growing movement of agency building practitioners. For those who've already interacted with the portal, whether directly or through results shared by funded partners, your endorsements are invaluable, and this was also shared. So your endorsements will inspire confidence and encourage more organizations to adopt this tool. So please liaise with our team, reach out to any of us, and share those endorsements with us. My conclusion, or as I conclude, this portal is more than a resource. We really view it as a catalyst for change, and we have an opportunity to really amplify agency and transform systems together. So we welcome your collaboration. We hope to see as many of you registering and beginning to use the portal, and we look forward to building the database on agency building programs with all of you. Thank you very much. I'll hand over to Zach.
Thank you so much, Lucy. We really appreciate it. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, every single attendee who's been here. This has really been wonderful, and we're so grateful to be at this moment, this momentous occasion. We have quite a few questions that have been given through the Q&A feature. We will do our absolute best to get through as many of them as we can in the next 10 minutes before we conclude. But if there are major questions that have not been answered, we may follow up on those using email and a few messages following this event. So keep an eye out for some frequently asked questions. We'll answer via email using the emails that you provided during registration for this webinar. But let's get to a few key pieces that I saw in the Q&A. And Auburn, I know that you flagged a few to answer as well. So we'll start with just a couple here, and I maybe this will address a number of concerns. So first and foremost, I want to address one of the major questions that's coming up again and again in the Q&As, which is essentially, is this survey, is this tool right for my organization? There are a lot of questions of, we have programs for young girls, we have programs for older girls, we are in Mexico, we use a different language, can I still use this? I think the shortest way to say that, and this guidance is available on the portal also, so if you want to see this in writing, you can see it on the portal today. The survey was designed and has been validated for use in life skills oriented programs that are targeting girls ages 13 to 24. That's the sweet spot. And it's been validated in 5 countries in Africa. Beyond that, there are some evidence that girls as young as 10 to 12 could take the survey in specific circumstances, although they start to have some problems with comprehension around the survey. We do not recommend the survey being used in girls under 10. That has not been tested, and we suspect that it would be problematic and complicated for girls that young. And on the flip side, we have not statistically validated it or significantly investigated using it in girls 24 and older. It is possible that it will work, but as with any research tool, there's a limit in certain considerations you should think about as you're using the tool and articulating your results. We don't know if it is as effective for that older population. So the short answer is you're welcome to try, with the caveat that it was not designed for that older population. Similar answer for geographic regions. Some of you are asking, I'm in Zimbabwe, I'm in Mozambique, I'm in Cameroon, can I use this? The way that we think about it essentially is that the tool has been validated for use formally in the 5 countries that we mentioned: Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Malawi. The closer your context is, socially, culturally, maybe even politically, programmatically, the closer your context is to the context where it has been validated, the more likely it is that you'll get valid results from the AGOS. So for instance, because it's been validated in those 5 countries in East and Southern Africa, if you are based in the DRC, you probably have a good chance of getting valid results from the AGOS. If you are based in Ghana, you probably have a good chance of getting solid results. Maybe not as strong as somewhere like Burundi, that's right next to the other countries that have been validated. And then the further away from the context you get, the harder it is to make the argument that the validity holds. So, are we certain that a program in Nigeria will see perfect results from the AGOS? No, but we feel fairly confident about it. Are we certain that a Girl Scout troop in Canada would see valid results? No, but we're more confident about the program in Nigeria, if that makes sense. Auburn, please feel free to chime in if any of that feels incorrect or you want to clarify or add. Hopefully that's helpful context for those on the call.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. I think much of that is right. So what I would say is we are testing now the regional limits of validity of this instrument. And I'll also note that actually the survey is already in use in Ghana and Zambia and Zimbabwe too, I believe. And we're hoping as we get more and more evidence from those countries that we can actually initiate validation work using the data from the portal to confirm what we suspect is true, that the AGUS is valid for a wider range of girls living in contexts beyond the 5 countries, Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, and Malawi, where we developed and validated it initially. I would say the key factor is how the constraints and opportunities of a girl's environment with regards to gender really change place to place. So in countries where gendered norms look similar, are structured similarly, are similarly rigid or not rigid or flexible, that indicates to us that there's a better chance that the instrument will be valid for those populations. So this is actually something we're testing in India in the upcoming year. We anticipate we may need to adapt the instrument a bit, meaning change some of the actual questions, although that overall framework of agency equals self-beliefs, environmental beliefs, self-governance skills, and leadership skills, we believe is universal. Although the individual questions we might need to use to measure it. For those of you who are interested in other language versions and using it in your context, please feel free to reach out to Gal. We're happy to share with you the methodology for translation of the instrument into new languages. We're also happy to work with your teams on validating it for new context. So I'm putting my information in the chat, and you can always reach out to any of us at Gal or at Amplify Girls about these questions.
Thank you, Auburn. That's great. A few other questions that have come up in the chat that I want to address. A lot of people have asked about a digital version or a soft copy version. That is absolutely something we are planning to do. It is not ready yet. So as of right now, the way to administer the survey is still to download, print it, and then put the results back into the portal once you've gotten the printed version. We do very much want to make a digital adaptation. We're looking for additional funding and resources to do that right now. It involves some more complicated development on the back end of the portal, but we are working on that and have aspirations to do that. We've talked to several people about getting a mobile version is for easier data collection in the field. And so that's something we hope to do. We hope to do it in the next 6 to 12 months, hopefully on the sooner side of that. But obviously, as that development comes, we will let you all know. We will make major announcements on that front. A few other questions that have come up. I just saw one I wanted to check. Oh, someone asked about costs. No, there are no cost implications. This is a completely free tool for all of you to use. When you go on and you sign up for access and you get registration and you come into the portal, this is designed to try to do as much good as possible on the sector. We aren't putting a price tag on it right now, and you are welcome to dive in and use it as soon as you are able. So no implications, no tricks there. Another one is someone asks, is there a maximum number of responses that can be keyed into the platform per cohort? There is not a maximum, however, and you'll see this in the user manual and in some of the resources on the portal. If you're going to have a cohort of 500 girls, for instance, we strongly recommend you consider sampling. So using a smaller subset, getting a random sample of girls that would represent the larger cohort rather than trying to give it to 500 girls. And if you have questions about how to go about random sampling and how to create that smaller group, we can help with that. But that is definitely the recommendation. I would not try to key in 500 responses. Were there other questions, Auburn, that you had flagged to want to answer, things that you saw with our perhaps
I
1 minute
mean,
remaining? Are there
yeah,
any?
there are so many questions. What I would just say is that for those of you who have questions about utilizing this in new contexts, I think there are a number related to that. Feel free to reach out. Um, we're really excited to see what the limits are of this instrument. And I think particularly in other African contexts, um, our hope is that it's widely usable as is, but may require some adaptation in other continents.
That's great. So we'll pause there just to say one final thank you to all attendees and to everyone who has helped make this resource possible. You are all now free to go to girlsagencyportal.org and request access using that sign up button in the top right corner. As I mentioned, our team is going to be reviewing those requests over the next few days. So give us about 5 to 7 days to respond to your request for access. But then you should have full access to the portal and can proceed from there. We know that there are many more questions and many more conversations to be had. We really look forward to those. We'll continue navigating this as we explore what the limits of this portal and survey truly are and what we can do in this space. So I want to thank our partners at Girls Agency Lab. I want to thank Jess from ICRW again for joining us. And thank everyone in the Amplify Girls team and network for everything they've done to create this moment. Thank you. Really, really, really thank you all so much. We look forward to working with all of you and making the most of this new resource. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful.